So we're continuing to work on our next game, and I've been feeling a lot of anxiety relating to the next game, and it's definitely making things more challenging. I've talked to some extent about what the way Neverending Nightmares and development went, because if you look at like Retrograde, it's a very mechanics focused game, and we got something playable in, I don't know, a week or something, maybe less, and we got into the IGF after a month and a half or something like that. So that is great feedback for a developer. You're on the right track, and you have that validation early on. But when you're creating a game that's more about the environment and the world and like Neverending Nightmares, and those are the games that most interest me, in terms of making. I really like fun game mechanics, but I think we can do more with the art form and express different thoughts and ideas by creating these, environmental, atmospheric games, and that's my main interest and what I hope to continue to create. With our next game, which doesn't have a name, and oh man, I've been having trouble finding a name, and they're talking on the forum, and all my name ideas everyone hated, so that just makes it scarier. But maybe I'm onto something with some new naming ideas. I don't know. At least I think it's better that I know my ideas are terrible before trying to generate press for a game with a terrible name, because I think that would be challenging, and I'm very fortunate to have the community's help, sanity check and make sure I don't do anything stupid, which I am prone to do, apparently. So yeah, that's scary, but basically, with these, the stage we're at, we have a lot of cool ideas. We have, we're building an interesting world in my mind. It seems interesting, but the gameplay, the atmosphere of the game is not there, and it's terrifying, and I obsessively worry, and I'm at the stage where I'm really second-guessing myself. I'm second-guessing, we're doing some interesting, choices in terms of the characters and the environment, or the setting, and things that haven't really been done before, and of course the worry is, people aren't going to want to play a game as our player character. They're not going to want to play a game with our setting. And those are terrifying, and I think, I'd like to say that the thing that matters is, the scariness of the game, but I think people can easily be turned on or off by the choice of setting or player character, and say, hey, this is something I'm interested in, or something I'm not interested in, so we may be setting ourselves up for a hard sell. I hope not, because again, I think that we're doing something really special and something that's very important to me. But hard to say. But then also, I mean, when we play the game, I can't say that the scariness is there. That I'm terrified playing it, and we really have the atmosphere down, because we don't have all of our art. We have some temp animations. We have no audio. I was working on something, and I said I had to record myself saying the sound effect and put that in just for testing purposes. But I don't think me speaking instead of a sound effect is really good at creating the atmosphere, which is important, and I mean, it's really scary and it's really tough, and I'm not one with a lot of self-confidence, and sort of at this point you have to say, I think I can see this through, I think I can deliver, and while I think, on paper, I've, managed to do it before, I've created indie games from, my imagination and gone through, in terms of implementation. And, so it's certainly not, outside the realm of plausibility that I would be able to do this, but it's scary every time. I was hoping it would get less scary, because I can say, hey, we did something special with Neverending Nightmares. We're doing something along those same lines, and so, if we just make a better game, our audience will grow. But it's tough to say that because maybe they won't like something about this game. Neverending Nightmares had a really interesting sort of narrative behind the creation of the game. In terms of my own personal experiences with mental illness, and the new game, it's not focusing on specifically my personal experiences with mental illness. That's not the main theme of the game, but and we have some cool, really interesting things, at least cool and interesting to me, that I think will appeal to people. But fundamentally, I don't know. Would people? I mean, I talked to my dad about these things, and he's, like, do you really think people want to play a game like that? Do you really think people want to play a game about mental illness and, want you to talk about mental illness and stuff like that? Is that really the best business move? I thought that it was, and I had faith in what we were doing to some extent, or at least I wanted to try. And while Neverending Nightmares, is no super success, we can't afford to make a mistake, which is a scary position to be in, but, which is why we want to sort of play it safe to some extent, but we also want to continue to push boundaries and continue to try to leave our impact and improve what a game is and what can be done in games. So I mean, I'm really excited about our idea. I think it's really strong, but I mean, again, it's really tough to say, and it's tough to figure out what the audience will like, and certainly I've talked about it before, the idea of sort of chasing a success, and if you look at a lot of the popular indie games, a lot of them are sort of roguelikes or, have procedural elements. And, with Neverending Nightmares, we did the opposite. There were, no procedural elements. And, it was but we managed to find an audience. And I think that's one of the great things about being an indie, is that you don't have to go where everyone else is going, because if you go where everyone else is going, then you have competition. Whereas, if you create, a game that's a psychological horror game exploring mental illness, we had no competition in that space for Neverending Nightmares. I mean, obviously we have competition, we have to compete for consumer dollars, but we were doing something different, and so everyone interested in that different idea, was able to get our game. And so I think that's something really good to do, is something that is different, something that you essentially have a competition of zero games, and so that's what we've been working on, and I guess I feel a little bit better about it, sort of justifying what we're doing and my choices, but I mean, I'm still scared, it's still scary, but I think it's a really neat idea, and it's something that not everyone will be interested in, but that's the advantage of the indie business is if we could get 100,000 people interested in the game, we'd be doing really well, and that's something that's a lot easier to design around than trying to create something that will attract millions of people. I mean, I think to some extent you just have to get lucky at that point, create the right product at the right time, or, just come up with an idea that somehow, people get so excited about that it just snowballs. And, I mean, while I'd love for my ideas to catch on, I think I would rather have safer bets. Although again, we're certainly not making a game that's safe, but at least in my mind, I think it's doable. So anyway, keeping my fingers crossed, and you'll hear more from me about this.